Imagine you're born today. No one tells you about God. No one hands you a holy book. No one teaches you to pray. No one tells you which religion is true. You grow up learning science, history, philosophy, and the stories of every civilization. Years later, someone asks you a single question. What do you believe? What would your answer be? Would you become a Christian, a Muslim, a Hindu, a Buddhist? Or would you believe in no religion at all? It's a question that seems simple, but it has the power to challenge everything we assume about belief. Because for most of human history, people haven't discovered religion on their own. They inherited it. And that brings us to one of the most overlooked truths about faith. Most of the time, we didn't choose religion. We were born with it. If you're born in Saudi Arabia, you're far more likely to grow up Muslim. If you're born in India, you're far more likely to grow up Hindu. If you're born in Thailand, Buddhism will probably shape your worldview. If you're born in Italy or Brazil, Christianity may become part of your identity from childhood. And if you're born into a non-religious family in countries like Sweden or the Czech Republic, you may grow up without believing in any religion at all. Your birthplace doesn't determine what is true, but it has a remarkable influence on what you believe is true. That realization has caused millions of people to stop and ask one question. What if I had been born somewhere else? Would I still believe exactly what I believe today? Or would I be just as convinced of a completely different religion? This isn't a question meant to destroy faith. It's a question meant to understand it. Because asking questions is how every field of human knowledge grows. Science grows by questioning old ideas. History grows by re-examining old records. Philosophy grows by challenging assumptions. For many people who eventually become atheists, their journey doesn't begin with anger. It doesn't begin with rebellion. And it certainly doesn't begin with a desire to live without rules. It begins with curiosity. One question becomes two. Two questions become 10. Eventually, those questions become impossible to ignore. But before we explore those questions, we need to understand what atheism actually is. Many people imagine an atheist as someone who hates religion, someone who is angry at God, someone who wants to destroy faith. But that's a misunderstanding. At its simplest, atheism is the absence of belief in a god or gods. That doesn't automatically tell us why someone became an atheist. Just as believing in God doesn't automatically tell us why someone became religious. Every person has a story. Some atheists were raised in deeply religious homes. Others grew up in families that rarely talked about religion. Some spent years studying sacred texts before leaving their faith. Others simply drifted away over time. There isn't one single path. There are many. Nor is it asking whether religion is wrong. Instead, we're asking something much more interesting. Why do people become atheists in the first place? The answer isn't as simple as many people think. Religious people sometimes assume atheists left because they wanted freedom from moral responsibility. Some atheists assume religious people believe only because they were indoctrinated as children. And others assume believers only hold on to God out of fear of punishment in hell. Both explanations are easy, and both are often incomplete. Human beings are far more complicated than slogans. Belief is influenced by family, culture, education, personal experiences, emotions, community, philosophy, history, and sometimes tragedy. Imagine two children born on the exact same day. One grows up in a deeply religious household where prayer is part of everyday life. The other grows up in a home where religion is never discussed. 25 years later, they meet. One cannot imagine a world without God. The other has never felt the need for one. Who's right? That's not the point. The point is that neither of them chose where they were born. Neither chose the language they first spoke. Neither chose the traditions they celebrated as children. Their earliest beliefs were shaped long before they had the ability to critically examine them. Psychologists have long observed that children naturally trust the adults around them. Parents and caregivers are a child's first teachers. Without that trust, children wouldn't survive. They learn what food is safe, how to speak, how to behave, and, in many cases, what to believe about the world. For billions of people, religion is introduced during those early years. It becomes part of birthdays, weddings, funerals, holidays, songs, and family traditions. It isn't just a belief. It's an identity. And that's important to understand because when someone later begins questioning their religion, They aren't simply questioning an idea. They're questioning memories, relationships, community, sometimes even their purpose in life. That's why leaving a religion can be one of the most emotionally difficult decisions a person ever makes. Many former believers describe years of guilt, fear, confusion, and loneliness. Some lose lifelong friendships. Others are rejected by family members. Some keep their doubts secret for years because they're afraid of what will happen if anyone finds out. If becoming an atheist were simply about wanting an easier life, why would so many people risk losing everything? That question deserves an honest answer. And perhaps that's why this topic is so fascinating. Because behind every statistic is a human story. A story of questions. A story of searching. A story of doubt. Some people ask questions and emerge with stronger faith than ever before. Others ask those same questions and reach a completely different conclusion. The same journey, different destinations. So what is usually the very first crack in someone's belief? Is it science, history, suffering, sacred texts, or something much more personal? The first question is rarely, does God exist? It usually begins with something much smaller. A question that seems harmless. A question that many believers have asked at least once in their lives. A question that refuses to disappear. What if I'm wrong? For some people, that question lasts only a few minutes before they're satisfied with an answer. For others, it becomes the beginning of a years-long journey. And the more they search, the more questions appear. One of the most common questions atheists ask is surprisingly simple. What is the evidence? Not because they want to mock religion, but because they believe extraordinary claims should have convincing evidence. If someone claimed there was an invisible dragon living in their garage, most people wouldn't believe it without proof. So atheists ask, if we're talking about the creator of the entire universe, what evidence should convince someone that this claim is true? Believers often answer by pointing to the beauty of nature, the complexity of life, the fine-tuning of the universe, personal experiences, miracles, sacred texts, historical events. To them, these are powerful reasons to believe. Atheists often respond differently. They ask whether those things are evidence of a specific religion, or simply evidence that people interpret differently. Then another question follows. If two different religions both claim miracles, how do we know which one is true? Millions of Christians believe their faith is supported by miracles. Millions of Muslims believe the same about Islam. Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, and followers of many other religions also describe profound spiritual experiences. If sincere people from different religions all feel equally convinced, how can someone determine which experience points to the truth? For many people, this becomes one of the hardest questions to answer. Then comes another. If God wants everyone to know him, why isn't the evidence clearer? Why do intelligent, honest people spend their entire lives reaching completely different conclusions? Why do philosophers still debate God's existence after thousands of years? Why are there thousands of religions and denominations if the truth is meant to be obvious? Again, these questions don't automatically prove atheism, but they do explain why some people begin to doubt. For others, the turning point isn't philosophy. It's fear. Many people grow up hearing about punishment after death. Some are told that questioning their religion is dangerous. Some are warned that doubting could lead to eternal suffering. Some spend years terrified of asking difficult questions because they fear the consequences. Eventually, one thought enters their mind. Do I believe because I'm convinced, or because I'm afraid? That question changes everything. If fear disappeared tomorrow, would my belief remain exactly the same? Or has fear become the foundation of my faith? Some former believers say they realized they weren't worshiping because they loved God. They were worshiping because they feared punishment. Others strongly disagree. They say fear may exist, but genuine faith is built on love, hope, gratitude, and a relationship with God rather than terror. Both perspectives exist, and understanding both is important. Another question often follows. If I had been born into another religion, wouldn't I fear that religion's punishment instead? Imagine a child raised to believe that leaving their religion could lead to eternal consequences. Now imagine another child, raised somewhere else, hearing the exact same warning, but from a completely different religion. Both children sincerely believe. Both fear being wrong. Both are convinced their religion is true. How should an outsider decide between them? These kinds of questions don't always destroy faith. Many believers spend years studying theology, philosophy, and history and emerge with even greater confidence in their beliefs. Others reach a different destination. Some conclude that they no longer have enough reason to believe. For many atheists, it isn't one argument that changes their mind. It's the cumulative weight of many unanswered questions. Questions about suffering. Questions about evidence. Questions about morality. Questions about history. Questions about contradictions they believe they've found. Questions about why different religions make competing truth claims. But perhaps the most personal question of all is this: if I had never been taught a religion as a child, would I have discovered it on my own? No one can answer that question with certainty. Yet for many people, simply asking it changes how they see belief forever. Then there is another question that has echoed through universities, homes, debates, and late-night conversations for centuries. If God is all-knowing, all-powerful, and perfectly loving, why does so much suffering exist? Why do children die from diseases? Why do natural disasters wipe out entire communities? Why do innocent people experience unimaginable pain? Believers have offered many answers. Some speak of free will. Others say suffering can shape character, reveal compassion, or serve purposes beyond human understanding. Some believe earthly life is only a small part of a much bigger story. Atheists often respond that these explanations don't fully answer their concerns. Not necessarily proof that God doesn't exist, but one more reason they struggle to believe. By this point, many people have reached a crossroads. One path says, keep searching, there are answers. The other says, I've searched and I'm no longer convinced. Neither path is usually easy, because changing your beliefs doesn't just affect your ideas. It can affect your family, your friends, your identity, your community, and sometimes your entire future. So what finally pushes someone from questioning to actually calling themselves an atheist? Is it science, history, personal tragedy, or is there another reason that doesn't get talked about enough? By the time someone calls themselves an atheist, the journey is usually already over. The decision may seem sudden to everyone around them, but for the person making it, it may have taken years. Years of reading, years of thinking, years of asking questions they were sometimes afraid to ask out loud. For many, it wasn't one book. It wasn't one debate. It wasn't one YouTube video. It was hundreds of conversations, experiences, and moments that slowly reshaped the way they saw the world. One realization many former believers describe is this: believing something deeply doesn't necessarily make it true. After all, history is full of sincere people who believed things we now know were mistaken. At the same time, many religious people respond with an important point of their own. They argue that just because people can be sincerely mistaken doesn't mean every religious belief is false. Sincerity and truth are not always the same thing. That is why the search for truth is often more difficult than simply asking who believes the strongest. Another factor that leads some people toward atheism is the internet. For the first time in history, billions of people can instantly compare different religions, philosophies, historical arguments, and scientific discoveries. A teenager in Nigeria can listen to a philosopher from Australia, a scientist from the United States, a Buddhist monk from Thailand, and a Muslim scholar from Egypt, all in the same afternoon. The world has become one enormous conversation, and with more information comes more questions. Some people become more convinced that their religion is true. Others begin to doubt it. Access to information doesn't guarantee the same conclusion. It simply gives more people the opportunity to examine ideas for themselves. Another reason some people leave religion has nothing to do with philosophy. It's personal. Some lose someone they love and struggle to understand why a loving God would allow it. Some experience injustice and wonder why their prayers seem to go unanswered. Others have painful experiences within religious communities. It's important to say something carefully here. A negative experience with religious people does not automatically prove or disprove the beliefs of that religion. People can fail to live up to the ideals they claim to follow. At the same time, for someone who has been deeply hurt, separating the people from the belief itself is not always easy. For some, that pain becomes part of the reason they walk away. But there is another side to this story that deserves to be heard. Not everyone who asks difficult questions becomes an atheist. Many believers have wrestled with doubt. Some religious scholars openly admit that questioning strengthened their understanding rather than weakening it. They argue that faith should not fear honest questions. Instead, it should be willing to engage with them. Likewise, not every atheist claims to have all the answers. Many simply say, "I don't know." And for them, admitting uncertainty feels more honest than claiming certainty without sufficient evidence. Perhaps that's the most interesting part of this entire conversation. Both believers and atheists are trying to answer the same fundamental questions. Why are we here? How did the universe begin? Does life have objective meaning? Is there anything beyond death? What is right and wrong? These questions have inspired philosophers, scientists, theologians, and ordinary people for thousands of years. And despite all our progress, humanity is still searching. Maybe the goal isn't to stop asking questions. Maybe the goal is to ask better ones. Because history shows us something remarkable. Some people begin with faith and end with doubt. Others begin with doubt and end with faith. Some change their minds several times throughout their lives. The search for truth is rarely a straight line. It's a journey. And every journey begins with a question. So, why do people become atheists? There isn't one answer. Some are persuaded by philosophical arguments. Some are influenced by science. Some struggle with the problem of suffering. Some question the evidence. Some feel they inherited beliefs they never truly examined. Some leave because of painful personal experiences. Others simply reach a point where they are no longer convinced. But millions of others examine those very same questions and remain deeply religious. That doesn't mean one side is unintelligent and the other is enlightened. It reminds us that human belief is shaped by evidence, experiences, emotions, culture, relationships, and personal reflection. Whether you are religious, agnostic, atheist, or still undecided, perhaps the most valuable thing any of us can do is remain intellectually honest. Be willing to question, be willing to listen, and be willing to change your mind if the evidence leads you somewhere unexpected. Because the pursuit of truth should never be afraid of honest questions. The real challenge isn't asking difficult questions. The real challenge is having the courage to follow the answers wherever they lead. If this video made you think, even for a moment, then the conversation has only just begun. So here's my question for you. What do you think is the biggest reason people become atheists? Share your thoughts in the comments, but keep the discussion respectful. Whether you agree or disagree, your perspective matters, and someone else might learn from it. If you enjoy thoughtful documentaries that explore religion, atheism, philosophy, history, and the biggest questions about human belief without sensationalism, subscribe to Unboxed Belief and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep seeking truth, and never stop thinking.